Okay, we should be live. Let me know how the sound is, how the picture is, how the connection is. Looks like it's working. All right. So camera's a little askew, but it's all right. Hope you don't have too bad of OCD with my camera. Hopefully not as bad of OCD as I have. Um, as I am. I don't want to say as I have. I don't know if there's a defined actually definition of OCD or autism or ADD or any of those, depression, any of those things. There's definitely like, you know, I don't know, for another stream, for another stream. But tonight I have a bit of an announcement. And but please hit the like button. It helps fuel the algorithm. It's going to be a pretty short stream. Last week was pretty long, but it was a really good one. I really liked last week's stream. If you didn't check it out yet, I highly recommend that you do. See, it was quite good. That's why it was so long. Is I feel like it was a good one. But tonight I have a bit of an announcement that's exciting. If you don't follow me on Instagram, which you can do, Tyler Marshall Goldstein, I think, is my Instagram. My wife and I are expecting another baby, and it's a boy. So we have a girl. She's 2.5, and we will be having a boy, God willing. Towards the end of September. So very exciting, and I don't, if you were here and you've been following this channel for a while, then before I started this channel, when I started this channel, I wasn't even married yet. I think I was engaged. Not sure. I got engaged definitely, I think, in 2020. My wife is, if she's watching this, she's like, I can't believe you don't remember the year. But I think it was 2020, and I think I started the channel in 2020. I don't know if I was engaged yet or not. But if I wasn't, then I got engaged shortly after. And if I was, then I got engaged shortly before. And then I live streamed my wedding on here. And thank you for the congratulations. And then we had our daughter, a few years later, and she's now 2.5 and learning to talk, and she shushes me now. She shushes me when I'm talking, and she doesn't want me to talk because she wants me to pay attention to whatever she's doing. Like if I'm talking to my wife, my daughter goes, shh, dada, shh. Ridiculous. But it's cute, but it's like, don't shush me. But it's fascinating to watch your kids grow. And I have a video actually of our son. He is already very active little boy, and I'm sure he's going to be too when he gets here. But here he is moving around. That's him. Gosh, wild, right? Isn't that wild? So wild. This is like a month, over a month old for sure. So, he's more than even he was there. And I felt him for the first time. He was kicking. My wife was like, here, like, feel. And I put my hand on her stomach earlier this week, and I was, we were just waiting. And then all of a sudden I got this little kick in my hand. It's weird because as a woman, I've never been a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I cannot know what it's like to be a woman other than what I see my wife go through and what she tells me. But, I imagine like you become a mom, you do become a mom as soon as you know that you're pregnant, even before, but I'm sure there's a mind that state change once you know, because everything that you do is impacted by it immediately. And if you are a good mom, then are you as soon as you learn that you're pregnant, you start taking care of the baby. Your body's already taking care of it, but of them, but you start taking care of them, as soon as you know that you're pregnant. And even before, if you want to get pregnant, you just take care of yourself, start taking vitamins, stop drinking if you're drinking. But for a father, for a dad, you don't become, it's a different time that you become a dad. You don't become a dad really until like the baby's born. And, as much as you help your wife during pregnancy, or you should, it's you being a husband, not being a father. But as soon as your baby is born, that's when you actually can become a father. And it's different for women than for men, is we have to choose it. It's not something that we can't, that we don't have any choice over. A woman's body is taking care of a baby before, the baby's even born. The woman takes care of the baby by making decisions even about, how she lives while she's pregnant. But for a man, you have to become a dad. You have to choose it after the baby is born. And it's just a different thing, because the way that it becomes real for you is at these different stages where, you hear your baby's heartbeat for the first time. That it kind of makes it more real to you if you're a dad, if you're the father. And then when you feel the baby kick for the first time, and then when you see an ultrasound video of the baby jumping, for the first time, and it is amazing to experience. It's definitely the most terrifying and joyful journey I've ever been on. I think that marriage is the most important. Your spouse is the most important relationship you can ever have in your life, and that's still true even after you have kids. But when you having children involves so much lack of control, and whereas with your spouse it's different. You don't have control over them really. They are a separate person, and that's part of the magic of it. But also you are each choosing each other, and it's a kind of the opposite of having kids, in that you as a spouse, everything is about choosing to be a spouse. Everything. There's no, I hope one day I'm married. I mean, if you're a woman, it's a little different, because usually it's the man who has control over marriage. People always talk about how women, at least in modern times, at least, women are the ones who control, sex, basically, access to sex. But that's actually like the wrong way to think about it. It's that men are the ones that actually control access to marriage. And that's where sex is supposed to happen. And the reason why is because this is the possible consequence, likely consequence, right there. It's a pretty profound consequence, pretty wonderful consequence, especially if you're married. But it's the most wonderful consequence. But it is a profound consequence, and you just can't understand how sacred even sex is until you are, until you have a child. It's, or at least until you're trying, but probably until you have one, I would say. But with children, though, it opposite of having of being a spouse is you have almost no control. You have such little control. It's terrifying, and it's terrifying after, because they're also their own person, and you can control the environment of your kids, and that's part of the first part of that is getting married. That's how you form the most important environment that you possibly can for to take care of your children, and is to be involved in a marriage. And after that, it's like baby gates and plugging outlets and keeping dangerous things away from children. But it's eventually they're gonna go off. They're gonna do what they want to do. They didn't choose to have you as their parent. You didn't choose to have them as your kid either. Like, you choose to have a child, but you don't choose who they are. And they don't choose who you are. You never choose who your parents are. But you choose your spouse. So it's a very, very different experience, and that in a way makes it scarier, because you just have no control. And you have to. One thing that I will say is, like, it's good to have God. When you feel like you have no control, then it's good to have God, because at least you feel like someone is in control. That doesn't mean everything will go the way that you want. It just means that you can trust God will do the best thing given the circumstances He has to work with, which is more than what we can picture, but still constrained by by the decisions of people, by choice. You have to let people be their own person, or else in the case of God, especially, if we weren't allowed to have our own will and make our own choices, then He has no meaning. And that's true as a parent as well, though, as if that is what makes your children meaningful and your spouse meaningful, is that they're different from you, and you can impact them. And those are probably like the two people that you can impact the most in your life, for sure. Your spouse is the first one, and then your kids. Actually, you would think that it would be the opposite. It'd be your kids you impact the most, and then your spouse. But actually, other than just facilitating the embodiment of the soul that is your kid, your relationship with your spouse is permanent, and your relationship with your kid is permanent in that it has a permanent impact, but it's not constant. You grow up, you leave your home, you build your own family, hopefully, and that, but with your spouse, like, you're till death. But it also means, like, with kids, there's like an element of letting go that is there. That's it's just different. It's and you really see, like, I'm excited because we're having a boy, and I was a boy once. Now I'm a man, and in case you thought that was going to go some other direction, but I have a first person perspective of what it's like to be a male, and I didn't have that of what it's like to be a female. I've never been a girl, and or woman, and then I didn't know what to expect having a daughter. You don't know what their experience is like, and I was pretty like nervous about it actually a little bit, uh, and I wasn't disappointed. I always wanted at least one of each. I come from a family of five children. Um, I'm the oldest of five, and there's four boys and a girl. And my wife is from a large family as well. She's also the oldest, and it's four kids, and it's like three girls and then a boy, and so it's like the opposite, which is interesting symmetry there. But um, so I knew I wanted kids, and um, you know, but I am very curious to see what it's like to kind of have a third person perspective on watching like your son, who's a male, going through life. It's gonna be interesting to see both third person perspective on both. And it's my wife is like, I don't know what to expect. Same way I was with a girl, and they definitely both are very different. I can already tell you from being a young boy, knowing what it's like, first person, and seeing my daughter. Little kids test limits. My daughter, I'll be like, get down, Juliana, don't go up there. That you're gonna get hurt. And she'll like look at me and she'll do it, or I'll be like, don't touch that, and she'll be like, and she'll just touch it. And she's definitely very much in that phase of like testing boundaries, but it's very different. Like I did things as a young boy that are like I would climb. Me and my brothers and I would climb on walls that were like 30 feet up in trees that were like 30 feet tall. We did things that were legitimately like life threatening, and I feel like girls don't do that as much, and so that is, uh, and boys also are much more able, um, uh, just because of demeanor and just the way that they're cognitively wired to kind of try and get past the boundaries that you put up for safety, and so that's going to be very interesting to see. Whereas like my daughter, she's like pushing limits a little bit, but at the end like of the day, she wants to. She doesn't have like the same, just the same, I guess, type of perspective on what it means to like go and accomplish something. It's like it's not about doing something life threatening. It's about doing something new, but not like it's not about like doing something scary. And whereas like for young boys, I feel like part of the accomplishment is doing something that is scary, and that's scary a little bit. Um, uh, I remember my parents walked in, and we had this like banister when I was growing up, and it had this wrought iron railing and they I remember calling them and be like, "Mom, come look at this," and like she comes around the corner, and I'm standing on the side of the banister, like and it's like 15 feet to the floor, and I'm just holding on to the side, and I'm like, look at this, look at this. And luckily she didn't freak out too much, but she was like, okay, you need to get down right now. And I remember once, my dad had come home, and I was like, here, like, come look at this. And I jumped off the roof. So like, that's just like things that I'm honestly not really looking forward to with a boy, but uh it's part of also just that experience. This was like a few minutes after she was born. Crazy. She was born at 2:42 a.m. and my wife went into labor at midnight. So here's I'm like terrified about this one because it's usually faster. Like labor is usually faster the second time around, and it's normally quicker than 2.5 hours. And but it was my wife's birthday, the and we stayed home because it was a Sabbath. And I was going to take her out the next day and to dinner and stuff like that for her birthday. And my wife always said, she was like, I don't want to have a kid on my birthday. I want my birthday for me. It's funny because as a man, I'm like, that would be awesome to have a kid on my birthday because we don't care about our birthdays that much. But women love their birthdays. And so they don't want to share them. And I was almost born on my mom's birthday. I was born on the 10th of January and she was born on the 8th. And so I was almost born on her birthday. And but my wife was like, I don't want that. And I was like, well, the odds of that happening are very, very low. So it's like 1 in 365. And so you should be all right. My wife's birthday comes around and we're sitting on the couch and we're watching The Crown. And then we're like, it's like the second to last episode of The Crown, which is an amazing show. I'm not like, huge royal family person or anything like that. I could care less, but it is a masterpiece of a show of TV. And so we're watching it. It's the second to last episode and it ends and we're like, you know what? Let's go to bed. And it's midnight. It's literally midnight. And when I say midnight, I mean like it was 11:59 when we turned off the TV and decided we were going to go to sleep because I looked at my phone and I saw 11:59. And then my wife stands up from the couch and her water breaks as she stood up at midnight on the dot. And it was like a movie. Like usually when a woman's water breaks, it's like not that dramatic. It was exactly like a movie with this. It was just like, like somebody just dumped a bucket of water or something on the floor. And we had already packed, thankfully. But this was a week before my daughter was due. So we were like not expecting it at this time, but it's like the first time I've ever been prepared ahead of time for anything. I'm usually a very at last minute type of person. I was even telling my wife this. I was kind of complaining about something before the stream to her about just me, waiting to the last minute. And I was frustrated with it. And the one time that we didn't wait to the last minute was to pack to be ready to go to the hospital. And we were a week early. And thank God, because my daughter was a week early too. And so we're getting, I'm like, okay, let's go. We are already packed. We're good. And I actually felt like pretty prepared. And my wife starts having contractions immediately. Paulina's like bent over and she's like, breathing heavily, like having contractions. And I'm throwing bags in the car. And then she turns to me and she goes, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I cannot leave the house with the sink like that because we had dishes in the sink and she wanted the sink to be clear and clean. And you cannot argue with a woman when she's like in this state. So you just do it. And so I'm doing dishes faster than I've ever done dishes in my life because my wife, who's minutes basically away from having a baby on our floor, needs the kitchen to be clean. And so we get in the car after that, we drive to the hospital and they're like, it's 1:00 in the morning. And they're like, they want to check her out to make sure she's actually in labor before they let me go back into the birthing ward because the security is usually pretty tight at a hospital in a birthing, in the birthing area because I don't know, people steal babies, I guess. which is a terrifying thing to even learn. But um, so the nurse is like, okay, we're gonna get her checked out, but you can wait right here with security. And as my wife is like walking, they're like, "Are you leaking?" And I was like, "Yeah, her water broke. We're having a baby." And the nurse just looks at me and she's like, "Okay, fine, you can come back." Like, and we just went back there, and about an hour and a half later, this happened. I just have these magnets in case you heard a weird sound that fell off my dresser, and they fell together. Um, but then we had this little girl, Juliana. It's when my daughter, she was born so quickly that like the contractions happen where like your body squeezes the baby, and then it stops and it lets off because it's letting the baby breathe. And if you're having too many contractions too quickly, the baby isn't able to breathe. And that's what was happening when Juliana was born, which was absolutely terrifying. Like there was all as we're like, I'm like trying to get my wife to breathe and push, and I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, push, and I'm like breathing heavily too, trying to like inspire or match her, and basically it's bring me closer and closer to passing out, and myself, and then. But your wife is just in the zone, like she's not seeing anything around her. But I'm seeing all these nurses lining up outside the door, and they're just waiting, which made me nervous. And I can see all the nurses like giving each other looks, like, "Oh my gosh, like this is getting to be a little bit of a serious situation." There's been, I have friends that have had very, very serious, complications during birth and stuff. It's rare. I only know a couple people that have had that happen, but things like that happen. Most of the time things go okay. Even if, there's some type of complication, you have to do an emergency C-section or something. Usually everybody ends up fine, but it's still traumatic. But they're telling us that the baby isn't getting enough oxygen and isn't, their pulse is not normal and they're not breathing. And I'm seeing all these people like lining up outside, and I'm seeing all the nurses give each other looks and giving, the doctor a look. And then, my daughter's born, and all of a sudden all these nurses, like emergency NICU nurses, just rush into the room, and my daughter's like completely blue and not moving. And they like took her away, and they were like just over to the corner, and they were like cleaning her up and, giving her oxygen and kind of like pressing on her a little bit and trying to just get her to breathe. And I don't think I took a breath the entire time. And then I heard her like start crying, and it was like the best sound I've ever heard in my entire life. It's making me emotional thinking about it. But it was terrifying. But it was like so surreal too. It was pretty amazing that she was fine. She was okay, but it was scary. And I'm like gonna need to like take how to deliver a baby, class or something like that. The whole time that I was driving to the hospital, the night my daughter was born, I just kept thinking about that scene in the beginning of Men in Black when like there's a woman who is an alien basically giving birth in the back of a car, and Tommy Lee Jones is like talking to the dad, and he's like all the dad alien that just looks like a human, and he's all nervous, and then Will Smith is like, "I don't know what I'm doing," and Tommy Lee Jones is like, "It's easy, you just catch." That's all I kept thinking about, is like, if I have to pull over and deliver the baby, like what do I do? And then I just kept thinking about this scene in Men in Black where he's just like, "It's easy, you just catch." And I don't know how easy, if it's that easy. It's not always that easy. Maybe sometimes, but yeah, it's interesting the things that like are woven into your experience, even like internally, is like that's the thought that like that's the scene in my head that I could not stop thinking about was Men in Black, the beginning of Men in Black. So weird. I hadn't seen the movie in forever, and I hadn't seen the beginning of the movie in even longer. But it's all that just kept playing in my head, just came right back. And yeah, it's odd. Anyways, let's go to the chat. Um, you need to remember this. Yeah. But let me see here. It's pretty wild. Here, look at this. This is like just to show how amazing this is. This is my daughter jumping in the womb before she was born.
Yep, that's a little hand. That's a little hand with all the fingers. You got both legs down.
Oh my gosh.
You got both hands up here, one here.
And this is I'll play the sound. My daughter's heartbeat, I think for the first time we heard.
All right, so that's
Isn't that wild?
great. All right, so
That's the first time that I heard my daughter's heartbeat, and we've heard our son's heartbeat too, and my wife and I've talked about it on here before, but we had a few miscarriages before we had my daughter, and it was quite a journey, and then hearing heartbeat for the first time was pretty wild. Was just a shift. Grateful for it. And then then they're born, and you watch them go through all these milestones, and it's fascinating too, because we did a 3D ultrasound with my daughter at a certain point, and I don't have it right in front of me. But I don't want to look for it either. I'm sure I will just look and look and look, and then I won't find it. And then I'll just say I'll find it later or something, just like the picture of my brother that I was talking about earlier. But but the thing is, though, is that we saw her face on this 3D ultrasound, like not just like the outline, but like it was like a rendering of her face, and you could tell what she would look like. And then when she was born, she looked exactly like that. Like her face looked the same. And so I saw my daughter before she was even born, which is like her face, not just her jumping or, her heart beating or the outline of her body or something, like her face. And it was really weird to then see it in the flesh, in person, it was the same. And every time you go and you get an ultrasound, like you see more and more, like they show you the spine and the fingers developing. And like my son, I have video of him just kind of like going like this with his hand. He's just like looking at his fingers, or he's moving his fingers, and he's like going like this. He's like feeling his fingers on his face, because there's no light, so he's not looking at his fingers, but he's feeling like his fingers, like, and that's a person in there, like, I know that, like, not to get, like, I know people will turn this into like a political thing and stuff like that, but sentient singularity theory is inside means separate and oneness. It means both. Is it a separate body, or is it the same body as your wife? It's both. It is within her, and so it is separate and one with her. That's the reality. Yes, it's a separate person, and it is a separate soul, and it's also under the jurisdiction of a pregnant woman by default. Just like your cells are under your jurisdiction, they are under your jurisdiction. It's just the way that it is. and there's a responsibility associated with that. But, you know, people talk about rights all the time, but, you know, there's nothing there. The rights are, you know, that's an important conversation, but what's way more important than rights is responsibilities. Like that's what we should be talking about more with all kinds of things in life that are usually devolved into like conversations about rights, but it should be first and foremost conversation about responsibilities, because even if there were no laws on anything, because that's where you can start to think about what is right and wrong. And you know, it's you can really see that, though, that like individual personality, because of technology, you can see your daughter's face before she's born. You can see the positions that they like to be in. They have preferences. They have habits already. They're, you know, so it's our son is very, very active, it seems, and probably will be just like that outside the womb. He's probably going to be crawling around, you know, quicker than most, I would imagine, and just very, very active. And you know, every way that my daughter was that we could see in the womb, she was the same way when she was born, and the things that the positions she liked to be in, you know, it doesn't change. And you definitely see that when you're checking in on them and looking at them on video again and every, you know, month or so, whatever the cadence is, and you can tell that there are certain aspects of their personality that just stay the same. And, you know, people think about even babies as being like this not individual person with an individual will. They're just kind of like, you know, they just have feelings of pain and tiredness and like whatever, but they're not like willful, you know, and or that they do things randomly. And that's so far from the truth. And especially for human beings, is that our will is so unique in that there's or I don't even want to say it's unique, but there's an aspect of all will that requires you to swim upstream. You know, and will is the desire to swim upstream. It's the desire to do that which is not being done. And humans have the ability to exercise that in many ways, more ways than most beings. But I think it's present in all beings. And what you see when you have a baby is like they're just as intentional as you are. Just as intentional as you are. They have goals just like you have. And they have interests. Like this is a video of my daughter just looking at her hand and being like fascinated by it shortly after she was born. And you can just see that she's like figuring out how to move it. And she's not doing something randomly. She's like examining what she's able to do. And it's, you know, you can tell that they're still learning how to do everything. They're learning how to drive this body that they have. And it just gets more. They just get better and better at it. And just, this is one of the best videos. This is a video of my daughter standing. One of the first times she ever stood up, and not just standing, but showing me that she's able to stand on her own. Like she's purposely standing and purposely showing me that she can stand. And you can see it in this video. You got it. Okay, baby. Wow. Oh my goodness. You can see how excited she is. Wow. Look at you. Yeah. Good job, baby. Like she stands up and then looks at me and wants me to watch her stand up. You got it. Okay, baby. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Look at you. Yeah. Good job, baby. So it's such a crazy experience because I have, friends that don't have kids yet, and they'll be like, yeah, my sister has a kid or my brother has a kid, and like, they're just learning to talk, and they basically like try and imitate a little kid trying to learn to speak, and it's just really like random and random sounds and random words in random places, and that's not how it is. That's somebody that doesn't see a baby. They're the same baby every day, trying to do the same things every day and making little bits of progress at their goals. And it's also important to like think about like what is their perspective on like what it means to do certain things. So like my wife reads a lot, and she reads every night, and she has different novels that she's reading, and she had some novel on the couch and earlier tonight actually, and my daughter picked it up, and my daughter's just starting to learn how to like read a little bit. She's starting to learn the alphabet, and she knows numbers. Like if I point, I'm like, what number is this? She'll be like 2. I'll be like, what's that one? 5. Like she knows that. She knows some letters, but she doesn't know how to read yet. And she doesn't really, I don't know how much she understands like what written words are. Like she recognizes certain words. Like she knows her name. And like if she sees like Juliana written somewhere, she'll be like, that says Juliana. Like she knows that. She knows what her name looks like, but she doesn't sound it out. She doesn't know like J makes this sound and U makes this sound, and L and I and N and A. But she knows like this, some symbol, the word Juliana means Juliana, and Juliana means her. And so, but this is a video I'm going to show here of like her. Most people would say pretending to read a book. It's because she was doing it tonight is my point. She opened up my wife's novel, which has no pictures in it, and she's like saying, something. I don't remember what it was, but she was saying something, and she was, then would look at us for like approval and be like, good job. And she'd be like, and then she'd do it again. And she's imitating my wife, but she doesn't really know like, that what my wife is doing. She knows that my wife opens this book, and then that when you open a book, you can read. But she doesn't understand exactly what reading is yet. She's just starting to. But I'm going to show this video of her. This was last year, so a while back. They change so much in the first like 4 years. Literally. Will be like, you've gotten literally taller in the last few days. And she's very tall for her age. She's like in the 99th percentile for her, or 95th, something like that, percentile for height. And which is odd because I'm not tall and my wife isn't that tall. But my daughter is like a skyscraper. She's super tall and way taller than all of her peers, and like, all the other kids and my wife's friends that have similar age kids, like that are like, 6 months younger or 6 months older. She's like taller than all of them. And even the ones that are older, or we'll go to the park and there'll be a kid that's like 3 and she's like 2.5, and she'll be way taller than that 3-year-old kid. But that 3-year-old kid moves and speaks differently. Like their speech is more developed. Their coordination, physical coordination is more developed because they're older. And 6 months is a huge difference. 6 months ago, like, I don't know. I mean, it is just so different. A year ago, my daughter couldn't really walk. Like, the video of her standing. When was that? Let me see. Get info. The metadata says it was taken on November 26, 2024. So my daughter was about 1 year old at the time. That was, a year and a half ago. And in a year and a half now, she like runs and jumps and dances and speaks and all kinds of things. But this video that I'm going to show now, this is her not pretending to read. It's her doing what she thinks reading is. She's reading this picture book that, what was the book? I can't tell. It's called Baby Duck, and it's just like a little puppet book, and picture book, and it's got some words in it, but it's about just a baby duck, and we would read to her every night. Lately, we've been telling her stories every night instead of reading, which is interesting because you can't tell a kid or your daughter or your son stories until they know how to speak, until they understand like words in a really kind of an abstract way. Because I remember like the first time I ever told my daughter a story and she got it was I told her a story about like a baby lion or something, and she loves lions, and she's like. She was like gazing into like at the ceiling, but like into the abyss. But like you could tell she was visualizing the story for the first time, because her language skills had developed enough to be able to do that. You can't just do that. You don't. Otherwise, you're just listening to gibberish. Somebody's just making a bunch of random sounds. But once you have enough of a linguistic baseline, you're now able to imagine pictures of what somebody is telling you with words. And so in a way, like telling stories is actually takes more development, listening to stories than just like looking at a picture book or even, reading to them a book that has pictures. But this is her not pretending to read, but doing what she thinks is reading. And the sounds that she's making in this video that I'm about to show are not random sounds, and you can hear the intonations that she's making. It's just that she's not skilled. She knows what she's trying to say. She's not just saying dent 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 dent. She's trying to say certain words, and she just isn't linguistically coordinated enough for us to understand it. It's funny because if you're the parent of a toddler, you can understand them really well. Like they've reached the point where they say words and you're like, you know what the words are. Like my daughter, she says biwas, and biwas is bananas. And like nobody, if you heard, if my daughter said to you, I want biwa, you'd be like, what? But if she says to me and my wife, I want biwa, we're like, okay, here's a banana. Like she knows, we know exactly what she's trying to say. So the sounds that little kids make while they're learning to speak are not random. It's just you can't always understand what it is. And they know when you can't understand it. I always feel bad when my daughter says something and I don't understand it. And because she knows, and she gets kind of awkward, and it's funny. The other day she was showing me this book about like the airport, and there's this little, it's real, you can move things in this book. It's very mechanical, and it's got all these cool, like you can move the luggage conveyor belt and by like spinning a wheel in it and stuff. And there was a piece of luggage that was shaped like a crocodile in it, or an alligator, and but you can spin the wheel and then the luggage disappears behind like goes in behind the luggage conveyor, and then it comes back out the other side. And she said to me, look, Dada, an alligator. And or she said, look, Dada, an alligator crocodile or something. And I looked and I didn't see an alligator or a crocodile anywhere, because she had continued spinning it. I'd never looked at this book before. And so then I was like looking around the page for an alligator or a crocodile, didn't see one. But then I saw an elevator and I was like, oh, it's an elevator. And she looked at me like, great, he doesn't get me. Like, he doesn't understand like what I'm saying. And like, she's like, what, you could just tell her face was like, I don't know what to do now. Like, he doesn't get it. And I knew that I didn't get what she was trying to say, but I was like, yeah, it's an elevator. And she was like, elevator. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, okay. And I felt bad. And then later on, she brings the book back over and she shows me, and she's like, let's read it, Dada. She's like, turns to the page, and this time the crocodile wasn't hidden and it was right there. And I was like, oh, a crocodile alligator. You were right. But she knows like when I don't understand what she's saying, and she hates it. But this is the video of her actually like telling what I can't say that she's reading because she doesn't understand in this video what words written really are on a page, but she is telling the story of what this duck is doing in this book. The only word that you could pick up on in there, and even me, is mama. She's 1 year old at that point. This video is over a year and a half. Is it over a year old? I think. Actually, I don't know. Let's see. When was this? It's old though. Get info. May 14th. No, that's today. It was created February 2nd, 2025. So a year and a half ago. Yeah, so it's over a year old. And it's pretty amazing. Here, let me look at more videos of just her development, Jules' development. This is the first time she ever stood. I walked in and she was standing up, holding onto the side of the like pack and play. It's called. It's just a little pen that you put your kid in, and she was holding onto it, and she figured out how to stand up, and then she was scared because she didn't know how to get back down. And then she fell down and then realized she was okay, and then did it again, stood up again, and then fell down again and stood up. And then she did it again and again and again and again and again, so repetitively that within 2 hours, she was like an expert of standing up and then sitting back down. But this is the very first time that happened. And you can see this video cuts off right at the end because I'm like, oh my gosh, Juliana, you're standing up. And then she looks at me and then she realizes she doesn't know what to do from there, and she gets overwhelmed. She starts crying, and the video ends. But it's still funny and still wild.
Oh my goodness, Juliana, you are standing up by yourself. Yeah, good job.
Like her face at the end. But 2 hours later, she was like an expert at standing up and sitting down. She realized she was going to be okay, and that it's fine. And it's just amazing to see them figuring out the world, because it's so intentional. It's not. Everything is swimming upstream. Everything that they do is swimming upstream. The only things that are maybe a little bit, kind of just instinctual would be maybe like, I don't know, like sucking their thumb or sucking, motion, because like they have to do that to breastfeed, or to drink from a bottle or something. That's how they eat and drink. But everything else really is, and they still get better at that. That's a skill they have to develop. Like, that's not something that they're just off the bat good at. It is There's some kind of instinct that motivates just the very beginning of that action. But okay, look at this. Oh my gosh.
Baby, are you walking?
Yeah, look at this.
Baby, are you walking?
It's like you don't know what she's saying there, but you get that you can see that she knows what she's saying. That's what's funny is like, yes, yanking. I was like, what is that? It's like, yeah, it's something like that, I'm sure. And those are not random sounds, is my point. Like those are her trying to say certain things, words that she does already understand and has heard, but doesn't know how to say it yet. And what's weird about like a baby's development is a baby can't come out and if it knew how to walk, it would. It can't. Like a baby's muscles have to develop, its nerves have to develop in a way that allows for them to walk. So it's like they have to exercise. It's like any other athletic activity. It's like you want to be able to do a rock climb. I rock climb and so like, you cannot just go and do certain climbs, even if you knew the techniques. That doesn't mean your body knows how to move, and that doesn't mean that you know exactly like what it feels like to balance in those certain circumstances that you've seen other people do it. And it definitely doesn't mean that your muscles and your tendons are strong enough yet to allow you to do the certain moves. They're just not. So their body is developing and strength and dexterity and coordination and experiences all developing while they're also learning how to do things. They are developing physically the ability to do it. So there's multiple components to this, and then watching that development, you really like realize that it's not just a matter of they don't know how yet. It's like some of these things they can't do yet physically. They have to exercise enough in order to be able to do it. And they become obsessed with like one thing at a time, which is why they get really good at things really quickly. Is like, my daughter is just starting to grow out of this phase, get past this phase that she's been in lately of running fast. So she'll be like, that was like her obsession over the past like 2 weeks is running fast. She'll be like, running fast. And then she'll just run fast. And she's just learning how to run quickly. And she's gotten to the point though, where she's pretty decent at it and pretty quick and, doesn't fall down, usually. And so now I could tell she's like going on to the next thing. And now she's reached the point where she's just started getting good enough at jumping where she can jump with both feet off the ground, not just like kind of, try and jump, but like actually get both feet off the ground. And so she's like been doing that every time we go outside now. And for like a week, she had this obsession with walking backwards. And so she would just like walk backwards all over the place. And because it's just, she realized she has this new ability and she wants to practice it, and they get really good at it. Kind of like standing up. As soon as they can stand up once, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this constantly now. And then they get bored. They try something else. They push to the next limit. It's pretty amazing to see. This is video right here. Another video of this is more recent. Me teaching my daughter some karate moves. Where is it? It's on my Instagram, but it's also somewhere here. It's this cute, but here. Here, right here. Okay, Juliana's turn. Hi-ya, hi-ya. Ready, set, hi-ya. Kick. And kick, hi-ya. And punch, hi-ya. And double punch, hi-ya. Hi-ya. Double punch. And kick, hi-ya. Good job. Turn 5. It is, there is no pleasure in the world that will ever match the and no adventure in the world that, no mountain climb, no rock climb. And I have friends that have climbed El Cap, the tallest rock climb in the world, and I've climbed with that. They've taken me climbing, and I rock climb too, but I have a natural fear of heights. I'm actually really pretty skilled climber, but and naturally good climber, but I also have like a little bit of a fear of heights. And so that's part of why I like climbing, is because it pushes me to conquer my fear. And a friend of mine who climbed El Cap, he climbed it once, and it took 3 days the first time, and he said it was the most terrifying experience of his entire life. And he said it was awful. And he has I've never seen him have fear of heights ever. And he told me that it was awful, like traumatizing. And he didn't even want to climb for a little while after. He got back into it though. He trained even harder, and then he went back and he climbed it in like 16 hours. And he was like totally much more prepared, and he felt much better about it. But him and I, and also me and some other friends, we've done multi-pitch rock climbs in Sedona that are 500 feet tall, and that feel like a quest, man. They really do. And I'm not telling you not to do these types of things. But I will say that there is no journey that is more joyful and scary, and also like inspiring, than being a parent. And it's definitely something that you don't want to do by yourself. It's something you want to have a spouse with. And other than life itself, in general, life in general is it's kind of like life. It's like experiencing life from the third person versus the first person is like having a kid, is what that allows you to do. It gives you this like meta perspective on what it's like to live life that you've never had. Because you've never seen anybody else live their life before, like grow up. You've seen your siblings, but it's just different. Because you don't raise them. You're not there the moment they're born and see them learn to walk and talk and do all these things. And you just don't see that the same way. And you don't pay attention to it the same way, even if you have younger siblings, which I do. I have 4 younger siblings, and I remember when 3 of them were born, and doesn't mean that I remember their milestones, because I don't. I just remember their traumas. I remember like when someone fell into a cactus. That's from Arizona. That is a rite of passage that you never forget. And when you see your siblings even go through it for the first time, you never forget it. It happened to each and every one of us at least once. And usually it only happens once, where it's like you eat it whole body into a cactus doing something, not just like brush up against it and get some cactus in your leg or step on it or something. It's like you have full body into a cactus. But you don't remember like the first time your sibling ever stood up. You just don't. You don't remember their first word. My daughter's first word was dada. I bet you my son's first word will be mama. And it's it's a different thing, man. It really is. It's an adventure. It's a scary and rewarding and joyful joyful adventure. And you know, get like, again, no, marriage is like the first thing, and it is what you actually have most control over too. It is important, especially like, you know, because of the lack of control that you have over having a kid. It's really, 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 really comforting to have a spouse, to be married. I can't imagine like how out of control your life would feel if you were to have a kid out, especially accidentally outside of marriage. Like, I'm not saying people don't deal with it. People deal with it. They do it. And it's not ideal, but you know, people do what they have to do. And you know, things happen, but that is one thing that it is avoidable for most people, just by not having sex. I know that sounds like I mean, I remember, you know, I didn't grow up in a house that was like, wait till you get married. I grew up in a house that was not like that at all. But ever since having a kid and getting married, my kids will grow up in that in that kind of house, because it's just true. It's just accurate. But you know, you want to have as much control as possible as in a situation where you're knowingly and embarking on the journey that you will have the least control over in your life to some degree. You want to have a little bit of control. You want to have control over at least who you go through it with. That's a big thing, you know. Like, think about any journey in any movie or book or even in your life, and you know, you want to have it would make it's always better to go through that with someone else that is the right person to go through it with. And you have to make yourself the right person. You know, again, marriage, everything about marriage is about a choice for the most part. And you know, how you even treat your spouse is a choice. And you know, it's as a father too, like, you know, to be a good mom, you really see the difference between men, like mothers and fathers, and like why it's so important to have both when you have a kid, because you see what your child gets from each of you, you know. And I see what my child gets from my wife. And my wife does things I don't even think about, like all of the toys, not all the toys, but like the developmental toys. Like, all the toys I get my daughter are of things that she likes. Like, I got her first lions, like toy lions. And she loves their like toy lions. She has a mama lion and a dada lion. And then I got her like an airplane recently, because she loves airplanes. And she gets all stoked every time she sees an airplane. She's like, an airplane. And so I got her an airplane. And you know, my toys I get her are like based on interests, but what my wife has gotten her is everything is about like facilitating her development and caring for her as well. Like, my wife thinks about things that I just don't, and things that would, you know, just make life more comfortable. If you've never lived with a woman and you're a man, you know, there's the whole cliche of like a man's place is like a TV and a computer and a mattress on the floor, and like, you know, that's it. And I having literally lived like that as a single man, that was my place. But once you get married and you have a wife, like, they do make the place a home, and you're like, why do we need a rug? A rug serves no purpose. but then you cave and you let your wife get the rug, and then you realize like why it's nice to have a rug at least. And they do that for your children too, and they just care about their comfort, and but to be a good mom is to keep a child alive primarily, first and foremost, and second of all, comfortable. And like if a mom can at least keep you alive, that's success. But alive and as comfortable as possible is like being in mom's going above and beyond. But to be a good father is, I've noticed, has changed. What it really, kind of so far is, it's different. It's not keeping my kid alive, like making sure they have enough food, making sure they have water, making sure I do that when my wife is not around, especially, but I can do that. But it's not really my like natural role. Is not to nurture in this, which is to make comfortable and to keep alive, basically. But my job is to protect, from dangers that are not like starvation, but are like, dangerous animals, people, objects, falls, even, and then also to entertain and like you're the comic relief if you're the dad. Like that's your job. You're just way funnier for the most part. That's not insulting to say. My wife is way more empathetic though to my daughter, and is way better at just making sure that she has the best environment possible. But I make my daughter laugh constantly, and but aside from just protection and being like the comic relief, you're part of how you model being a good dad is actually by modeling being a good husband. That's actually the most important thing. Because your job is to be the example, and so that example for your daughter is what type of man she should marry, and your example for your son is what type of man he should be. And you don't treat them differently or act differently towards them. I don't believe like in the whole double standard thing. I just don't. That doesn't mean that that the standards are the same or anything like that, or that that you don't treat your kids, you don't act the same towards your kids. But it just means that what they get out of it is different, for sure. And because for a woman, it's like, what do I seek? It's like someone like my dad. And so you want to be as good as you can possibly be. Because if you're a good father, though, you want her to end up with somebody better than you, actually. Like I want it would be huge. I mean, the best thing I could hope for my daughter is that she ends up with a husband who is kinder than me, funnier than me, stronger than me, more disciplined than me, and a better shot than me. And some of those things are going to be hard to beat, I will say. But regardless, you want that, and you want your son to grow up to be a better man than you. Like more moral, kinder, more disciplined, stronger, and that just depends on a lot. But at least emotionally, and even a better shot, but at least a decent shot. But it's so when I don't agree with when people say like, oh, it's a double standard, like you want this for your this is appropriate for your son and this is appropriate for your daughter, and they're different. It's like no, they're different. There are different expectations, obviously, because there are different requirements for their lives, but they're not contrasting at all. And yeah. Anyways, I think I'm gonna call it. But that's my update. And trying to think if there's any other like videos that I want to show. There's a video that you can watch videos that my first live stream after my daughter was born. I like show her on camera, and it's on here if you go back, and I talk about that experience a bit more, and we're going to speak more about this stuff. Actually, there's one more video, or maybe a couple more that I'll show. Most of these videos I've showed before, but at some point here, this is one. This is like kind of a sadder video, but I'm going to show like a video that brings me a ton of joy as the last one. But then I'm going to show this one too that is like heartbreaking a little bit, but it's of my daughter, and this is one of the saddest I've ever seen her. And tonight she was really sad too. I will say she hit me like in the eye, and it hurt, and I was like upset, and I didn't like freak out or anything because it didn't hurt that bad, but like I wanted to convey to her that like she'd hurt me, and so like I was like holding my eye, and I was like, you hurt dada, like you hurt dada, that hurts. And I was like and I like turned away, and I like started like going away from her, and she felt like rejected and sad, and felt guilty, and you could just tell, and she started crying and then lost it. And then my wife was like, say sorry to dada. And she's like, I'm sorry, dada. And I was like, it's okay. And then I gave her a hug, and then she was better. And, but, she's been kind of like in a phase where she picks one parent to be nice to and one to be mean to, at any given time. And, it is interesting. She'll be like, no, mama, space, go away. And she'll like want to hang out with me, but then she'll be like, no, I want mama. And then she'll hit me in the eye. And then, each of us, my wife or I, we'll have to remember, we've been pretty good about it. Like we're on the same team. It's like, you go, and I'll be like, mama's the best. Go. We love mama. Go say sorry to mama. And or my wife will be like, you hurt dada. He's in pain. That hurts, or you made dada sad. Like, go say sorry to dada. And it's important that your kids see their parents on the same page, not even on the same page as on the same team. I think it's more important that like it's better for the kid for them to see both parents on the same team against the kid than it is for one parent to be for like them to see one parent against the other. Because I even remember, I basically remember any time my parents ever said anything about each other that was like not kind to me, even when the other one wasn't around. And it was never that bad. My parents were, they're still married. And nobody's marriage is perfect, but if you're still married after, I don't know how many years that they've been married, 40 years almost. Yeah, about 40 years. That's pretty good. But I remember when if my dad was like, gosh, your mother's just frustrating me. And it's like, there's that fact that I remember that, even just that casual, is like, oh, your mother, it means that even hearing that is kind of traumatizing to kids. And because your stability in a marriage is also their stability. It really is. And it's good for them. But yeah, there's one of the things that you also realize is we have this perspective of going through life where all of our feelings later, when we look back on them about certain things, seem just overblown. And I remember like telling my parents that like I really loved like a girl, like in middle school or something. It's like that, I barely knew that girl, and being like, I love her. Actually, it's like love, and like crying, and like even in high school or college, like and some of them I did have, like I was close to, but never didn't end up dating or something. And but the thing is then you get married and you're like, there's no such thing as a serious relationship until you get married. Like until you're engaged, there's literally no such thing as a serious relationship. People are like, yeah, I've been in serious relationships. I've said that. I've dated the same girl for 2 years, for more than 2 years before. I had 2 girlfriends before I met my wife that each of them were over a year. And one of them was over 2 years. It wasn't serious. It felt serious, but once you like look back, you're like, that wasn't serious, because the intention isn't serious. If you're planning to get married, then it's serious. But if you're not, then it's like you're doing this for fun anyways, which you shouldn't really do because it traumatizes people. But I'm guilty of it, and I've had it. Nobody wins when you break up. Everybody loses. There's no one that's like wins. Everybody gets trauma from it. But the point is though is that it feels so like intense because our emotions are only able to be how grand they feel, how strong they feel, is only able to be related to other emotions and things that we felt in the past. And so that's because that's your reference point. And this is also why like every year seems to go by faster and faster. And it's because you're not comparing how this past year feels to how last year's year felt. You're comparing how this year feels to the previous 30 years of your life. And so now it feels like 1/30th of your life because it is. And that's a much shorter amount of a smaller portion of your life than 1 year was when you are 8, when it's 1/8 of your life. It's a much bigger portion of your life. And you compare it to the other 7/8 of your life, not to the previous year. And part of that is probably has to do with just, I was talking to a friend recently, but I wonder how much if our lives were totally dictated by seasons, like they were prior to like electricity, how much we would experience that, or if whether or not we would be able to compare this year to last year, because we would have natural indicators of like what year is what year. And it wouldn't just be like marks on a calendar. It would be like feeling a year. And this is what I mean by this is when you think about this year compared to like, is it like every year feels quicker and quicker because you're comparing it to all the previous years of your life, or you're putting it contextualizing it within all the previous years of your life. But for every day, it doesn't seem to go by quicker and quicker. It just kind of depends on what you're doing that day, whether or not the day goes by quicker or slower. So it doesn't seem to be like the days just go by faster and faster every day. No, they don't. Sometimes you have days or weeks where days go by pretty quick because of what's going on, but you're not like every day is going by faster and faster. It's every year goes by faster and faster, it seems, but not every day. And the reason why is because your sleep, when you go to sleep and wake up, it resets like your reference point. And we don't have that for a year, especially with electricity. So, we're kind of in a continuum in our activity versus like a cycle. We're like, it's, if you're a farmer, I wonder if it's a little different for you because you're thinking about things on an annual basis in an annual cycle in a way that like, we're just not. If you're, seeing the ball drop is not an actual like reference point that helps delineate like the years in your mind. You don't remember that. That doesn't add context necessary for your mind to like segment year after year. But I wonder if you were a farmer, especially like prior to electricity, you were probably like 3 seasons ago was, we had way more rain. And it's like, that's pretty detailed if you can think about it like that versus, let me look up the date of like when my daughter was born. It was 2 years ago. And it's like, you had to look up the date, but like a farmer, before electricity would probably just be able to be like, like 3 seasons ago. And, but just like you can be like, 3 days ago, you don't have to look at the calendar. You'd be like, it wasn't yesterday that I had, that we did this, but it was like, the day before. You can do that. You don't need to look at the calendar. You could just be like, not yesterday and not the day before, but the day before. That's when I did that. When did we last go to the grocery store? Oh yeah, it was like not yesterday. And it wasn't the day before that because like we did that other thing. So yeah, it was the day before. You can't do that with like years anymore, at least. And so my point was that I was eventually getting at is that this happens with emotions. And so my daughter in this video that I'm about to show, she's crying like the world is ending. And I felt awful because like she's crying, she's acting like literally it's the worst thing that's ever happened to her in her entire life. And all that happened was we got her these Bob books and we'd showed them to her that day. And she was like obsessed. She just wanted to like look at all the Bob books and this one and then that one and that one and that one. And they're actually really hard to read, even if you know how to read, because they purposely try and throw you off. They'll be like, Matt sat on the cat. The cat, sat, on Matt. And then it would be like, it just changes it up. So it's like not rhyming anymore. And it'll be like, the cat sat on the wet rug or something. It's just the way that they do it purposely is to be awkward, to make you like pay attention to the words because they're designed for people who are learning how to read. And so you can't like guess the next term always. They try and like switch it up and confuse you, purposely to get you to pay attention to the words. But she was way young. Like she just like looking at the pictures at this point. And at the end of the night, it was time for her to go to sleep. And I was like, okay, Juliana, we got to put the Bob books away. And she lost it. And it was like her home had just burned to the ground. And at first I was like, gosh, you're acting like the world is ending. But like, you're just going to sleep, like just putting the Bob books away. But then I realized this is the worst thing that's ever happened to her. Like she has a pretty good life. And she was like 1 year old. And this is the worst thing that's ever happened is like, she found this new thing that she thinks is super interesting and she has to she has to give it up. And she doesn't know that like it's going to be there in the morning because she's never had this experience before where like she has to go away from something that she, is novel and that has just shown up and that's not really always been there. And she doesn't know if it's going to be there in the morning. And in her mind, it's like she just has to give it up. And you have to just think about the context of like what is going on in their mind and how it is contextualized in their life and the information that they have access to, because to her, this literally was the worst day of her life at the time. And I'll show it here.
Yeah, we gotta put the books away though. We gotta go sleeping. Yeah. Can you help us? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's like heartbreaking a little bit, but you can hear me just be like she doesn't realize yet. Right here, I took them away, and you can tell her face. She's like mad, but then she doesn't understand yet what's happening. And then she realizes that like she has to give up the books, and she doesn't know that they're going to be there in the morning. Like they're right. I didn't take them away, and I just put them away back. I put them back in the box, and then she played with that. She read them or looked at them, all day long the next day. But she didn't know that that was going to happen. And at this point, like most of her toys were things that she's had for a really long time, and they were things that were I don't know. She just had a different relationship with them. Whereas like we picked them out, and there's really no control over them. It's like, it's like a little moose or a little stuffed animal, or like I don't know, like a rattle toy, or like a bubble wrap type toy thing. And it's not this like really this thing that you can kind of really immerse yourself in, and look at like this little box of probably like 10 little Bob books with little pictures and stuff in them, that she can look at the pictures and she knows what the pictures are of, and so they're really, she's just really into it, and you could tell she's not sad yet, but she's like realizing and processing.
We gotta go sleeping. Yeah.
Sad.
It's okay.
It's like she's saying goodbye to the books. She's like look at her. It's funny, but it's also heartbreaking. It's like making me want to cry. Yeah. It's then my point is with this, it's like, when you're a parent, it's really important that you remember that, as I say on here all the time, context is information, and feeling is like how we fundamentally understand the world. And feelings are not to be dismissed, or like, I guess, what's the right word? Not dismissed, or diluted, or it's like diminished. But that doesn't mean that like what you want to do is always the right thing or whatever. But and it doesn't mean that your motivations for your feelings are always good. It just means that like you have to recognize and admit and acknowledge like that you have the feelings that you have, and that's all right. But that doesn't mean that what they motivate you to want to do is all right. And it doesn't mean that what motivated them is all right either. It just means that, they are actually the most real part of our experience. They're us feeling ourselves in the context of ourselves, in a certain situation. And also, when you're a parent, you have to recognize that everyone's feelings are always felt, and your kids' feelings are always felt in the context of their life, not in the context of yours. And so, from my perspective, it's like, Juliana, where you can play with the books in the morning, it's fine. They're just Bob books, and you can play with them in the morning. It's not a big deal. But to her, she has no idea that they're going to be there in the morning. She's never seen something so interesting like that she's able to like explore, like every page is different, every book is different. And she always has loved books. And so, and then now she has to like, she sees this and it's so wonderful to her. And then she like feels like she's going to have to give it up. And she doesn't know that like, she's just going to sleep and going to wake up and it's going to be there. She thinks that it's going away. Why would she think that it's going to be there in the morning? There's no reason for her to think that yet. Now after experiences, now I'm like, okay, put the books away. It's time to go to sleep. And she knows they're going to be there in the morning. But it's just a matter of like, does she want to go to sleep or not? But she doesn't think that her toys will disappear as soon as she falls asleep. Whereas like, that's kind of what she thought here. And yeah, I mean, it's like your house burning down. It's like, that's kind of similar to like how she kind of felt it like about this. And it's how she reacted, but it's also like kind of makes sense when you think about it from her perspective. And that's something that's like really important to think about with your kids is like, but it's hard because so much more than them. And you have so much more experience. And I knew the Bob books will be there in the morning. So there's nothing about this situation that should be sad to me other than the fact that she's sad. But you have to really try and think about like why they do the things that they do. Even today, when she hit me in the face, and she hit me in the eye, it hurt. And like, the thing is though, is that she doesn't know how much it hurts. And you have to remember that too, is like my wife and I don't hit her. So she doesn't know like what it's like to really be hit. Like she's never really been hit by other kids, really intentionally, at least that, in any serious way, at least. But she's never been smacked in the eye by another person. And she doesn't know how much it hurts. And I realized that as soon as she smacked me, I was like really mad and I didn't react. I was good about it. I was very intentional about like putting on like basically a show of to show her what I wanted her to understand, which was that it hurt. But also, I forgive her, and that it would made me sad. And you kind of have to like, at first she started laughing because it's hard because she knows when I'm joking around. But in this moment, I wasn't joking around, but I was also like, I was like kind of faking being like upset. And she started laughing at me at first. And I was like, great, this isn't working. And then my wife was like, Dada's sad and Dada's hurt. That hurt, Dad. And she like helped me out with the skit a little bit and was like, now say sorry to Dada. And then my daughter started crying and she felt so bad and you could tell. And then I gave her a hug and I was like, it's okay. I forgive you, but like, then there's a lesson there of like, when you smack somebody in the face, it's going to make them sad and it's going to hurt. And like, then you have to say sorry. And, but before that, she has no idea, and she does all these things that were like, that's dangerous. Like she jumps on the couch and like, she's fallen off the couch a couple times. But only once maybe has it been like due to her just like, I don't know, doing something that she wasn't really not supposed to, because I'm pretty good about catching her. And the thing is though, is that she doesn't learn when I catch her. She has no idea. She does not learn what will happen. And my wife kind of wants to always protect her from every bump and bruise. And I've kind of had to get to the point where it's like, no, and let her do it. Or she'll stand on something that's like dangerous, or not dangerous, but like she's going to fall and slip. Like she, she'll stand on like a plate or something, like a metal plate, because I'll toddler plates are like metal or rubber or something so that they can't break them. And so she'll, if there's like a plate on the ground or something, or like the lid to a Tupperware will be on the floor, and she'll stand on it, and then she'll try and like surf on it basically. And my wife will be like, don't do that. Like, you're going to get hurt. Like, and she'll like try and get her away from it. And now she's pregnant enough to where I am the one that she asks to get her away from it. And I've gotten to this point where, for the most part, if it's not life-threatening, I'm like, no, let her do it. Because, and my wife will be like, but she's going to fall. She's going to get hurt. I'm like, yeah, then she won't do it again. Like, because that's the only way for her to learn. And because, again, feelings are fundamental. First-person perspective is how we actually come to an understanding of the world. We can tell her all we want about how she's going to get hurt if she is climbing on the stairs, or jumping on the couch or on the bed or whatever. And until you get hurt doing one of those things, you just don't feel it. Even if you understand that it's possible and you know what it's like to get hurt, it sucks. You don't get it until you feel it. And so kind of got to like let them do that kind of thing. Let them get hurt a little bit, which is, tough. It's tougher for women than it is for men, for sure. It's way tougher for moms. But this is probably the last video. Here's another one, actually. This is her. She had discovered that she could scream in this video. And because remember I said, like, they're learning how to even vocalize, sounds, and they're exercising their voice. If before they speak, like and sing and whatever, like they need to learn to exercise their voice, and they need to develop the muscles and stuff. And she had just reached this point where she could actually like scream on command. It wasn't like crying out of hunger or something, or it was like she's screaming because she's entertaining herself. She's just like trying to see how loud she could be. And she did this for like 2 days straight, and God bless our neighbors, because we were living in an apartment at the time. And I'm sure they heard it every time. And it was, I remember babies and young kids get obsessed with things because they want to practice. They get like really interested in doing something novel and exercising some ability. So she was just obsessed for like 2 days of trying to see how loud she could scream. Not out of anger, not out of frustration, for fun. And this is a video of it. It's so funny. And you can also see she does it on command when I tell her to do it. And so she understands exactly what it means.
Hello. Did you just discover that you can scream? Want to show everyone? Wow. Wow, baby. That was a big one. Good job. Hello, little girl. Did you just discover that you can scream? Want to show everyone?
Like, look at her whole body moving, like she's straining to try and be as loud as possible.
Wow, baby. That was a big one. Good job.
I was speaking to somebody today who is a new father, like their kid is like 6 months old, I think. And he was like telling me that he, it was really hard for him very early on, because there isn't that much that you can really do. You just support your wife as much as possible, in the very early time, because she's got everything that they need and you have nothing that they need. But you have everything that your wife needs. But until your kid can start communicating with you, like you just don't have that much interaction with them. And the very first form of communication that a baby has with their parents of like a complex idea or of like a feeling other than just contentness, which is like stopping screaming, is smiling. And it's also a skill that you have to develop. It's not something that is a natural thing that you just do when you're happy. It's something that you see people do when they're happy, and then you want to do it because you see that it's used as a communication. It's a way of communicating, and that you see your parents doing it to you and communicating, and you're like, hi, and they want to do it. Everything they see you do, they want to do. They want to walk because they see you walk. They want to smile because they see you smile. They want to talk because they see you talk. There's no instinct motivating these things. It's will that motivates all of them. But it's primarily will in the context of ability and example. But here's my daughter, like shortly after she learned how to smile, and I would just be like, "Can you smile?" And she'd be like,
Juliana, can you smile? Yeah, good job.
like it's fascinating. Eric Weinstein, I've said this before, said this the most real thing, like the realest parental thing in the world that I've ever heard. And he said it to Kurt Mongol in an interview. Kurt asked him about fatherhood or parenthood, and Eric said, your kids are simultaneously the most interesting thing in the world to you, but also the most boring thing in the world to everyone else. I don't know how many people are watching. I don't know how interesting this is to you. I'm kind of showing you like a lot of development, and I'm talking about it, so hopefully it's a little bit more interesting than normal. But one of the things that I didn't understand is after my daughter was born, everybody wants to compliment you and tell you about you and ask you questions for the sake of you, but it's not actually for the sake of them. They kind of want to know, a couple things depending on who they are. What's the name? What'd you decide to name them? Took 3 days for us to come up with a middle name for my daughter. We were in the hospital for 3 days, and every day they'd come in, they'd be like, what middle name do you want? And we were like, we don't know yet. Come back later. And eventually we were just like, Rose. And because we just needed to leave the hospital, and they were like, you need to tell us a middle name. But the thing is that like, it's the context of this that makes it so fascinating, that you don't get unless you see step by step, and you see them trying things, and you see what they want to do, and because it's not just that, oh, they took their first step. It's like you saw them want to and fail and try again and fail and try again and fail and try again. And you saw their drive to do it, and then they did it. And it's different than just like one day they just took their first step because it's just instinct and you just do it, and they don't do it for any reason. It's like, no. You don't even crawl by instinct. It's a decision that you choose, and it's a struggle to learn how to do it. It's really hard. And it's not something that is just happens. Here's another video I'll just show. This is her more videos of her kind of learning how to walk.
Having fun, Juliana? Hold down his head. Okay, come on, you got it. Good job, baby.
You can see the fear in her face. She's afraid of falling. And she's not good at this yet. She wants to do it, but she's afraid. And also there's an emotional component of like not disappointing us. And, she wants to make us proud. She's not really, I don't know how afraid she is of disappointing us, but because we've never been like, we're so disappointed in you, Juliana. Like one of the very first things I ever said to her was good job. And I say it to her all the time, all day long. I just think it's a good thing to say, to encourage them. But this is, you could just see the fear in her face. And she gets overwhelmed and starts crying again.
Hold down his head. Okay, come on, you got it. Good job, baby. Okay, you got it. 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 Oh, good job, Juliana. Good job. You're overwhelmed? Don't. It's okay. Are we trying hard? Yeah. Are we doing new things? Yeah. Are we being brave? Yeah. Good job.
Like you could see I'm like psyching her up, and like she had learned how to say yeah at that point already, but this is like over a year ago. But
It's okay. Are we trying hard? Yeah. Are we doing new things? Yeah. Are we being brave? Yeah. Good job.
and then she was all about it. She was doing everything. She was climbing, being a spider, and it's that's what I mean is like, you know, you see the fear and like everything that's hard for them, and then they do it, and you're like, wow, like you did it. And okay, look at this.
Good job.
This is her learning to crawl, and you can hear she's like kind of like in the beginning because she's overwhelmed. She's been trying to do this and she's frustrated. And but this is even earlier. This is her trying to crawl. Like crawling is not something that just happens. It's something they struggle to do and they fail at, and then they eventually succeed.
You got it.
But she wants to do it. She knows what she wants to do. It's not just random.
Good job.
Look at her. Look at like
Good job, baby. Good
you see how wobbly she is. Like she's trying to balance.
job. Good job.
It's not just like random movements. It's like she's trying to stay upright, and it's not easy because your body isn't even developed enough to easily do it yet.
Good job. Good job, baby. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job. Good job, Juliana. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good job, baby. Good job. Wow. Wow.
Like at this age, even she's like wants us to see what she's doing.
Juliana. Oh, my goodness. You're coming over all the way down.
And look at like she's so proud of herself.
Good job, baby. Good.
They're little people. They are little people. They have all the feelings we have. They have all the will we have. They have all the drive we have. They have the goals we have. It's not instinct and randomness and mindlessness. It's probably more aware, more mindful, more intentional when you're that age, because you just don't have the patterns that we have now of like, get up, go to work, you know, this is what you do. This is, you got to go to the store again. It's like, you know, it's just not as, life is not as repetitive yet. And if you have a kid, then your life is not as repetitive anymore as it was before either. It's a way of spicing up your own life. But it's every day is different when you're a parent, which also for your kid, which makes every day different for you too. It's just an added positive. Usually it's positive. Some days are hard, but you know, you can see there like how much crawling is not a natural movement from nothing, you know, and it is a movement just like any movement it is swimming upstream. Walking is swimming upstream. Talking is swimming upstream. None of these things are natural and motivated just purely by instinct. There are some actions that we have that are motivated by instinct. I sometimes wonder, like, if a bunch of people were raised in an environment with absolutely no idea what sex was, like what it did or how it was done, and they were raised on an island with no reference point. No one told them about it. No one told them what it was. No one told them what it ended up, that it was made children or whatever, and that it felt good or how mechanically how it was done. Like, would you eventually have people start having kids? And I bet you would. That's like the one thing that I'm like, I think that one for some reason would just happen. Because, and the reason why is because it's something that you don't see happen really. Like, and, I wonder though, because humans are different. Whereas like, I don't know if other animals, it's not really hidden like it is with humans. So like it is something that you can see and then like model, but like for humans, it's not. I mean, it is, but not really. Like you don't see that in person usually when you with other people. It's like, there's like pornography or something, but like that's different. But I wonder. I bet you it'd probably still eventually happen, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Because humans develop language right around the time that we also developed like shame, which is like, we took a bite from the apple and it's like you realize you're naked and you want to cover yourself. It's like, well, yeah, that's what that is like keeping that private. But at the same time, we developed language, complex language to explain things that are circumstances that aren't current. And so you could explain it to people after that. So I don't know. I actually don't know. But maybe. But everything else, basically, like, for sure. I kind of after talking through it, I kind of changed my opinion. I don't even know if that would happen. Actually, I think but I don't know. I think it's something that we'll never know because we developed language right around the same time that we started. We kind of realized shame, but I think it's even language maybe that like allows you to feel shame, because it's just a complex emotion that's kind of requires thinking about the non-current circumstance. You have to think about something in the past, not currently, and like language allows you to do that. Whereas like you don't think about you can only think about and communicate about the present before you have like complex language. Even birds and chimps and things like that, they can communicate with each other about the current circumstances, but not about things that are not happening in the current circumstances. That's a human specific trait. That's what language is. I had a talk earlier with some people. It'll probably be posted online. When it is, I'll share it. But it's fascinating. It was about like the philosophy of rap. Interesting subject. But it was very related to like language and yeah, it was fascinating. But I'm gonna show one more cute video and then we'll call it. Oh man, there's too many cute videos. Which one? This is a video of my daughter. I'll show a couple. This is a video of my daughter we brought her out into the world for the first time. We were walking through a Nordstrom. And if you've ever been to a Nordstrom, it smells like perfume, like not just one perfume, all the perfumes, because we walked into the area where they sell perfumes, right where it was right near the entrance. She was so overwhelmed, and this is her face.
My God, why are you so surprised?
She's so overstimulated by the smells at Nordstrom. Like it's like interesting because I bet you for the rest of her life, if she ever smells Nordstrom, she will feel something will be brought back. It will reference a feeling that she had in that moment. and she will feel that whatever memory it is. She won't be like, oh, that reminds me of the time that I went into Nordstrom. She didn't know what Nordstrom is. She still doesn't know what it is. She has no idea what a store is. She has no idea where we are. She barely knows she doesn't even know what a stroller is yet. That's like her first time, one of the first few times out in a stroller. So there's no way for her to even delineate these structures and form pictures of them in her mind to memorize. But the feeling that she felt when she smelled that, I bet you that will be referenceable for the rest of her life. She'll just walk into a Nordstrom one day. She'll be like, this just makes me feel a certain way. I don't know why. It's like whatever she was feeling in that moment. But so many good ones. I think I'm going to just show this one. I think this is going to be the last one. Here. This one. And then the next one.
Hey, let's show everybody here. Look. Pop up. Pop up. Looking at the camera. Okay. You got it. You got it. Don't look at the camera. You can do it. Yay, Juliana! Good job. Good job, baby. Okay, this one. Yeah, good job, baby. Yay!
Yeah. Then she gets better at it.
Yeah, look, right here. Okay, good job. Good job, baby. Yeah.
What is fascinating about this is it shows the intentionality. That's what it shows. This is not her just like taking an object and just being like, randomly. Nobody does that. Who does that? Nobody does that. Not even babies do that. They know, they saw me, I showed her how to do it, and she's like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to try and do it. She's also distracted by the camera. But what's interesting is she's never seen like a camera really. Like my wife and I used to be wedding photographers, and we both love photography. And we have some cameras in the house, but she's not seen us like go out and use them, because the only cameras she's ever seen us use are our phones. And she's seen like one or two times we did like family photos with somebody. And so she's seen cameras before, but it's very rare that she sees an actual camera other than a phone. And so we got her this toy camera though. It's a little wooden camera, and she walks around the house with it lately, and she came up to me, and she's really speaking in like sentences now, which is just fascinating. Instead of like just instead of just being like, saying a word like water, I want, wawa, or like, I don't know, cookies, for if she wants cookies, or crackers if she wants crackers. She loves crackers. And but she'll say something like really complex. And so she came up to me at the beginning of the week. She goes, she had the wooden camera, and she's like pointing it at me, and she's like pretending to take a picture. And she's like, I take a picture. She's like, Dada, get your phone, Dada, take the picture. And she wants me to like be taking pictures with her. And like, she wanted to just walk around and pretend to take pictures of all kinds of things. And she wanted me to do the same thing with her. And so we were just like walking around the house, like, I'm pretending to take pictures and she's pretending to take pictures. But I don't even know if she knows that she's pretending, or versus like whether or not she just thinks she's doing it. But she knew that the phone takes pictures too, and the camera is also to take pictures, which is interesting because I didn't grow up with that. Like we had cameras and we had phones when I was a little kid, and now the phone is a camera, is a phone, is a remote control, is a calculator, is a compass, is a secretary. I mean, it's all kinds of things now. But it's one object. It's a calendar. You know, it used to be like there's a calendar, there's a phone, there's a camera. And in third grade, I asked my teacher, I was like, why can't we have a phone that's also a camera, that's also a calculator, that's also a pager? I remember I said that because pagers were a thing at the time. And that means cell phones were not a thing. They were not. You had a house phone and you had a pager, and you got paged. You looked at the number on your pager, and then you called that back on a house phone. And so I said, why don't we have a phone, like a pager that's also a phone, that's also a calculator, that's also, you know, a video camera or whatever. And she was just like, because when you combine all those things, you get a really bad phone and a really bad pager and a really bad calculator and a really bad, you know, whatever else I had said, video camera. And now, like, look at our phones. It's wild. Teachers, man, school teachers, I had a couple good ones, but we shouldn't worship teachers the way that we do. There's no more important influencer, no more important teacher than parent. That's just a fact. You are the real educator of your children, and you better be, because you're the one who's best suited for it, and you're the one that cares the most. You actually care about their success as an adult, and versus like not all teachers that claim to care about the kids think about it like that. They don't have to deal with the life consequences of the things of the choices of your children. They don't ever see it even. And so they might be for supporting them on certain things or something like that, or but that might not be good, because they don't see the consequences. This is the last video. Oh gosh, actually 2 quick ones. It's just so many, guys. This is when I first took her home from the hospital, and it's just cute. I was showing her and like really making like letting her listen to Lion King soundtrack and Tarzan soundtrack. Lion King became her favorite movie ever of all time. So cute. It was just like a moment. Look at that little girl. Now she hits me in the face and she tells me to shush. She shushes me. She does more than that, by the way. She's also like more. But I take her on nature walks. I teach her about animals. We find like snakes and scorpions and centipedes and fire ants. I teach her about fire ants and how to avoid fire ants. She wants to find a porcupine, so we go looking for porcupines. We do have them here. I've seen them. I've seen dead ones on the road, right outside my neighborhood. So I know they're here, but we haven't found a live one yet. But that's like what she wants to find, is a porcupine. But we find all kinds of animals, found cows even, but and that's like, she loves doing that. But it's so much, being a dad is so much fun. It really is. Once they get to the point where they can walk, especially, and talk, so much fun. But even before that, as soon as they can smile, it's so much fun. Here is the last video. And this one is just, it's just cute. It's just her like fascinated by my face. It isn't really like her accomplishing anything necessarily, but it's her like trying to like examine my beard. It's just her really realizing like that, like there's something interesting there, I guess. Do you think Dennis Beard is funny? Yeah, that is weird. You're cute. It's just a cute video. But yeah, it is just fascinating. I had one more comment that I wanted to make and I forgot what it was. I forgot. But I'm looking forward to another one. My wife was like, oh, she was like, I don't know, like she's like worried that she's not gonna have it, it's gonna like split the amount of love that she can give to like one and or the other. Like she's worried about if she's gonna be able to give enough love to both of them. And that's not what happens. I don't think. I've never had two kids, but like I've had, one, and I just don't. I also know what like how meaning multiplies instead of divide. When it divides, it multiplies, and like. I was telling her, I was like, giving her a sibling is like one of the most loving things we could do for her. And, my friend of mine, who's an only child, was telling me that he was like so glad he was an only child because he always got like any toy that he ever wanted because like he never had to share it with anyone. And I was like, I mean, I guess that's a positive, but the reality is that the amount of times I was upset that I had to share a toy was so rare compared to like, and I had 5 kids in my house versus the amount of times that like I had somebody to play with, like my siblings and I would play together. And, I don't know, like playing with someone else is like the point of having a toy almost. Like there's only so much you could do by yourself. And it is, I'm excited. I know my daughter's going to be jealous in the very beginning because she's going to have to share us. But then she's going to realize that actually she now has someone else that she can, be around and play with and then it's going to be different. But in the very beginning, she's just going to feel like great. Like now I don't get this thing is taking attention away from me. But yeah, she'll get it very quickly. She'll realize like this is it doesn't take away from my life. It adds to it. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm fascinated. I'm very interested to see like her with the baby, and how watching their relationship develop is going to be fascinating. But anyways, thank you everyone. Please hit the like button. This one was just, I hope it was interesting. I hope it was maybe a bit inspiring. These things, part of these things are really the most sentient singularity theory is so relevant to it. And because, one of the cores is like, why make someone else? Why are you here and I'm here? Why did God choose to make us? Choose to swim upstream, do something that wasn't just the default, and make others sacrifice a little bit of his will and give it and partition it off and give it to us. And it means that sometimes things that he doesn't want to happen will happen because we can make choices that are against what his will is. Eventually his will will be done if it comes down to his will and our will, and the two can't be compatible. He's going to win. But it just makes me think about like that thing my old roommate friend said about being an only child. And it's like, yeah, there's a little bit that you have to give up, but it's also like so multiplied, and it multiplies your own meaning. I mean, even if being a sibling, it's like you're one of the most important people in your life is your siblings. And they're probably the most important people in your life besides your parents after your parents and after your spouse is your siblings. And that's a really meaningful thing. So, I don't know. It's like, that does mean sometimes you have to share space with somebody that does something that you don't want them to do. And things aren't always going to be your way, but even marriage is like that, you know, you gotta compromise on, like, I don't know, what color you paint the kitchen or something. No, not really. I have no care in the world, but, anyways, thank you everybody, and, peace till next week.